Perfect. All right.
Share your screen with your audience. And we are live, Frank.
Hey, how's it going, Mike?
Oh, man, it's great.
All right. This is our first live perspective shift. We're going to do it every first Monday of the month at 9:30.
You got it.
And that's Arizona time. So right now that's Mountain Standard Time, but in the summer it's Pacific time. Arizona does not have a time. They don't.
No time change.
No time change. So
Yep.
yeah.
So thanks anybody who's tuning in. We're just going to kind of do what we would do normally on Perspective Shift. We just figured if we can get a live episode going, this gives the opportunity for anybody listening in to reach out. Anybody who wants to ask a question, anybody who wants to chime in on a topic, it gives them the ability to do so. And so, yeah, we're going to start doing this the first Monday of every month, and we're excited to do it. It's kind of like a live episode that we will air on our Spotify, YouTube channel, all of the above.
All right. Is anybody on right now?
I can't see. It looks like we got a couple people have tuned in, so we got
All right.
that. I say we just dive into our episode, do it like we would.
Anyone out there that's listening, just give us a thumbs up. There you go. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right.
So you can definitely hear what's going on.
All right. So today's topic of focus is we're going to talk about the idea of frequency and, dealing with how to mitigate that or how to control it or how to be within the presence of natural frequency.
I love that.
Right?
Our most natural state.
Yeah, because right now, a lot of us get stuck up in the outside world in situations, circumstances that happen. And that's what creates how we feel about something. And what's happening there is we have these old belief structures that are in our bodies. They're like programs in the subconscious. A lot of times we don't even know they're there. Yeah. Some call it trauma, which is simple beliefs based off of, like, say, money or little things like that. And when
self-worth.
Yeah. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to release those beliefs through, practical, pragmatic ways of dealing with our frequency. Because it's what it is. We don't need to be carrying any belief around with us. Beliefs are always there for us to grab. Just kind of like when I go on vacation, I don't take my whole house with me. I leave my home here. I jump on a plane. I go somewhere else. When I get there, there's a bed, there's dishes, there's everything there. And I leave those when I leave there. I don't carry things around with me, but it doesn't mean I do without. Yeah. Same thing with beliefs. We don't need to carry them with us. And a lot of times we have them shoved so deep down. When something happens, our frequency goes out of whack, and we think it's that problem out there. It's kind of like an analogy I use with the thorn. If I had a thorn in my back, and every time I brushed up against the wall, and I didn't realize there's a thorn, I'm actually saying I got to stay away from the damn walls. The walls are the problem. Did you ever see that movie, The Jerk?
No, but I'm familiar with it though.
Yeah,
I remember the cover.
Yeah, not to get sidetracked, but there was a scene there where there was a gunman shooting at people, and he was, Steve Martin, who was the jerk in the movie. They were getting shot at, and they were shooting the cans. It was oil cans. It was a gas station. He goes, "Get away from the cans! They're shooting the cans." It's like, no, idiot, they're trying to shoot you. So, so the wall isn't the problem; it's the thorn. But if you don't know you have a thorn in you, don't have this unwanted belief. You want to try to mitigate by changing the outside world, and that's impossible. So you end up knocking the walls down, and then you say, "Oh, I'm not going to walk near a wall anymore." And then, a couple of years later, a human being brushed up against you. Now you're out in the middle of the woods with nobody around you, and all you had to do is release that thorn.
Well, and let's point out what the thorn is, what the wall is, and what we're symbolizing here. So the thorn, is clearly a wound, a trauma, an experience that we had, and then we have these experiences in our day-to-day lives where it will trigger that response, and we don't even know it. And so we blame the activity or the situation or the person or whatever, and we say, "Oh, this is the reason I feel bad. I need to fix this. As soon as I go out in the world and I fix this, then I'm going to feel good." But that thorn, that's still that underlying program that we have is still there. It's still present. And so it's just going to manifest in a different situation, in a different person, or in a different way until we address it on a subconscious level.
Absolutely. And the way to get to that place, we're going to talk about different modalities, and there's a bunch of them. The one modality, you obviously, who's listened to us for a while, we realize is breathing, because breathing is always with us. But there's a numerous, like you could do hypnosis and all that type of stuff. And what it's doing is it's finding that So sometimes, like, you might have a thorn, but you can't really pinpoint where it is to grab it. And so by doing these types of modalities, it'll actually grab it for you. So when a situation comes up that agitates you, like that thorn just hits, it's like a sharp pain, so to speak, or hits you in the gut. Look at the situation and what is it that you have to believe for this to be true for you to feel this way? That's how you find the thorn. And you have to be honest with yourself. Like if you see somebody out there that has something that you deem you want, how do you feel? Do you feel jealous? Do you feel deserving? Or, I used to feel this way too when I went down this road. I would feel righteous, like I'm more spiritual than you, even though you have more stuff than me, like have this feeling type of thing. And also, but that didn't help me. I was still another thorn that I just put an apparatus around for me to, not hit. So once you get hit with something and you recognize it based on that, just recognize it, sitting back, the witnesser of that hit and taking it onto yourself is literally what relieves and finds a thorn and then pulls it out. But most people don't know that. So they're trying to like, oh, if I could just make it just as money as that person, jealousy will disappear. I'm like, no, you'll just place jealousy onto some other aspect of your life.
Object, person, whatever.
Yeah, because like if you did if I was jealous of people who had more money than me, and all of a sudden, just one of two things I could do. I could hang out with people with less money than
me. Make a new group of friends where you feel superior.
Yeah, when I play basketball, I always go to the grade school. I don't go to the high school.
Pick a team I know I can kick their ass.
Beat them, yeah, even on their bad day. So, so it's about actually recognizing that. So if I try to do that, I'm still going to come up against the problem when I do play the game in what we call equal quarters with somebody that's just equal as me or maybe slightly above.
Yeah.
But instead of realizing it's not about whether I win or lose the game, it's how I play the game, so to speak. You'll actually have fun playing, and even whether you don't shoot as many baskets as the other person, it doesn't matter. It's the field of how you felt, why you were actually involved in playing this cooperative game with other individuals.
Thanks for asking the question, Kayla. We saw you chime in. You said, how would you go about, finding out the actual cause of the thorn, and I see that you wrote, oh, we're literally answering that in real time. Totally. But let's give a real world example. I think that's a great idea. Great question, Kayla. Thanks for reaching that. Like what's a good example that we can just kind of give of a thorn, and how we would ask and address that personally?
I'll give you a personal example of what happened to me.
Perfect.
So this just recently happened. And this actually shows that to some degree, I pulled most of the thorns out, but there's still some there. So recently I had investment in a firm.
Yep.
And a lot of money.
Uh-huh.
And it looks like the firm is going fraudulent or something, right?
Okay.
So once I found out this information, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm at work. But then I started thinking about it, and I noticed that there was a little hit. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like it would have been many years ago, but that little hit was the point of me actually looking into it and be like, huh.
So so you made an investment. One of these investments, it seems like it's kind of going sideways with this firm or whatever, and so that hit, that initial panic of like, oh, what the hell? Oh, this is a lot of money. Oh, this investment. That's what you mean?
Yeah. So what that triggered is then it doesn't matter to what level. Like I said, okay, years ago, my reaction would have been far worse, if you want to put it in better or worse type of scenario. The hit, it wasn't that bad, but there was still something there. And so I went and investigated, and that comes from the belief of lack.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay. And this just recently happened. So you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And until something like this at this level happened, because like, a couple $1,000 could have gone away, but we're talking about 150 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, okay. Okay, what's the difference? To the universe, $150 is no different than 150,000.
Exactly.
And it's just a belief structure I had in me that was still deep in me about, okay, this doesn't bother me, this doesn't bother me, but if this happens. So that was a way for me to pluck at that thorn. And that's exactly what happened. So whatever transpires from here on in, the amount of money that I may have lost was worth me finding that old wanted belief that no longer needs to be hoarded inside my body.
That sense of lack. I see what you're saying. You're pulling that thorn out.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. So when these moments come up, that's the moment when you say, okay, why is this bothering me? What belief do I need to have to be true? And then you realize it's just a belief. There's no empirical truth to belief. If you hold on to it, it's relatively true. But I
Mhm.
don't want to live a relative life in that field. I want to step into this world and experience everything.
Mhm.
So part of what we're teaching here is about not adding more information. It's about peeling away the information and beliefs that we already have. And some of these beliefs aren't necessarily from trauma. They're from, like, hey,
Parents,
if someone
teachers.
steals from you,
Yep.
that's bad. And no one may ever stole from you, but at one point they do. That's not really traumatic, but it's still a belief that's actually taking you away from your natural state of the flow.
Mhm.
And that's really what. So you could call flow of love or whatever you want to call it. So no matter where, I always want to be in the state of flow. So the first thing I do is I check my state. All right. The state is the thing that drives me. It's kind of like me and Karen were driving. This is my wife. We were driving in the car yesterday, and we saw a flock of birds.
Mhm.
And they're doing the whole pattern and stuff. And I've talked about this before. And I remember years ago watching like the show on like trying to figure out, it was like a nature show on birds, and it wasn't just birds, but they were showing birds flying in these patterns, and it was an awesome amount of birds in the air. And they're like, who do you think the lead bird is in that? Because every time it would change. And they came to the conclusion the birds aren't leading it. The field in which they got caught up in is leading it. Kind of like when you go to a rock concert or any type of concert, you get caught up in the field of the musicians playing it. And even the musicians and the audience are in the same field. And the truth is no one's really leading.
Mhm.
Even though you might think the people on the stage are. No, they're in the same field. They just happen to be playing the instruments. But I've watched a study on this. So if they took an apparatus and they put it on your brain and measure the brain output of, say, the lead singer of the band, and then put it on several people in the audience, if somebody was looking at some monitor without knowing who they were, they would not be able to decipher who the band member was or who the person watching was.
See, that's so interesting.
Yeah, because it's a field that's guiding us. So what we're doing is, as we remove these old wanted beliefs, we start rising to these higher fields of energy where things aren't problematic. Things are situations, challenges, yeah. And then we go higher, then they're excitement. Challenges can be exciting rather than problematic. So it's all how we look at it. But it's not just about a concept, because years ago I would read these books and it was easy to do mantras and stuff when you're feeling good. But when that thing happened, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, we're live. Am I allowed to curse live?
Yeah, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. You're good.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on.
Yeah. And so what I've noticed is I like, wow, why do I feel this way? It's because I dipped down, or it's not that I dipped down. There was a sandbag holding my hot air balloon from rising even further. So as I start to peel those away, all these beliefs, we don't need to carry beliefs. Just like I don't need to carry anything with me. Wherever I go, wherever I need will be there. And it's kind of the understanding of St. Francis from Assisi.
Yep.
He was a very wealthy man in his day, and he gave up all of his money. And people said then he lived like a pauper. And like, that's a misinterpretation. What he knew is, for one thing, in a practical setting, the money back then was physical.
Mm-hmm.
So can you imagine he had, okay, guys, I'm going to travel from town to town. So can you imagine how many chests of gold he would have carried? Like,
Had to lug all this.
yeah, because they didn't have credit
Wealth.
cards back then. It's not
Yeah.
like he could take it with us. So the money that he had to be on his physical possession. Well, that would have been taken from like 10 miles out of town,
Mhm.
But he knew everywhere he went, he knew the universe would provide for him.
Yeah.
And he was always provided. So even though he lived meekly, if you want to call the word, or humble, just heard the word humble, everything he needed was always provided for prior to him even knowing how it was going to be provided.
Yeah.
And those are the key understanding. So once a situation comes up, that is the perfect opportunity to take into place. Okay, and how do we mitigate that? How do we do that? Okay. A lot of times if you're at work, I'm like breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I'll take if I'm in a conversation, something dings me, I'll just breathe in my nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, slowly out. 2, 3, 4. After like 3 of those, the first one I notice it, but after the third, the fourth, the fifth one, I'm actually calm, and now I can re-engage in the conversation without losing my stuff, if that's what the situation happened. And what happens is when I start to elevate higher, I can see the situation, and then you become very effective in the world. You're not like sticking your head in the sand. You actually become very effective. This is not a problem. It's a situation that has to be dealt with. This is real life stuff. When someone steals your money, I'm not saying don't go after it, but when you actually stay calm, you have a better chance of mitigating it or learning a lesson from it. There's always something here positive at every corner. But when you're not feeling good, I don't give a shit how much positive affirmation you say. I don't care. It doesn't work. So it's about getting you up to back to that state where where everyone's flowing, and then let's reinvestigate. So sometimes you want to draw back from that, go within, start breathing, feeling good. Okay, I feel good. Okay, let me now ask the question on where's my money?
Exactly,
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
And I'll bring this example up again, but it's like the Chinese finger trap. We talk about that. The more we struggle, the more we pull, the more the more stuck we get. And it's not until we let go, and release and not struggle that it actually comes off. And so that little mechanism is such like a great metaphor for how this reality actually works, which is, when you're out here trying to fix this and fix that and change this law and do this, you're creating more and more stress, anxiety, struggle by trying to fix this physical world rather than bringing it back home, bringing it to yourself and going within and changing your state. Because when we change our physical state, when we change our actual inner state, our physical state all around us changes.
yeah,
It begins to match that. You hear the phrase, the world is a reflection. That is so true. Everything outside of us is a reflection of our inner world. And so if you got a lot of crazy shit going on in the world around you, the biggest indicator is, hey, I need to go within. I need to learn to self-soothe. I need to learn to calm my nervous system. We don't focus enough on the nervous system, but that's what really is like kind of generating this experience when you're breaking it down on a scientific anatomy standpoint. Is we the this the thing that is governing how we're experiencing the world is this nervous system.
yeah. And like everyone knows when the nervous system's out of whack, but
Oh yeah, we can feel it.
yeah, if we don't know what caused it, we're trying to mitigate it through the outside world. And like you said, like going within, it is physical because everything at physical is frequency. So what we're dealing with the change of frequential aspects of our inner being. So when I start to feel upset and I start to breathe, so when I breathe in, that's a will. It takes will and effort to breathe in, right? So it takes me to, you know, but when I'm releasing, it's a symbolic and actually you're doing it of letting go. So people are like, how do I learn to let go? Follow your breath. And I'm like, this isn't metaphoric. This is physics. When you breathe in, the letting go of the breath is literally letting go of that belief structure that you had that made you breathe. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Hey, honey, take the garbage out. All right. I'll do it right now because my belief is I'm sitting here comfortable. No one should be bothering me and this and that and whatever. I am my own um, sovereign nation sitting on the couch. And my wife's like, no, this is a partnership. Get up and take out the garbage. So, so by breathing in and breathing out, I get up and do it without any bit of argument, because I'm not going to win it anyway.
So breath is a great physical aspect, and I use
Yeah,
breath daily. I
yeah,
mean, that is a go-to for me because that's the quickest way for me to change my physical state. But another tactic I remind myself or I utilize a lot is I remember that I am narrating. We are storytellers. We are telling a story from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to bed. And we think 60, 70, 80,000 thoughts per day. A lot of those thoughts are the same rollover from the days
mhm,
before. And so when you can understand that and begin to change the self-talk, that's really going to allow yourself to let go of these old ideas. It's going to be what shapes the new experiences that you're about to experience. And so, with a combination of the physical breathing and then the changing of the mental narrative or the self talk, this is how you're actually going to alter your state. And you're going to go from this is tough, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm stressed, I'm worried, to this, hey, I'm in a calm state. Maybe things do work out, and you're now rounding the corner to a whole new, path. You've diverted from the original, I'm upset, I'm this, and now you're moving on to, no, there's more, and I'm participating, and I'm allowing myself to enjoy this experience. I'm not going to come from this from a place of lack. And then this changes every interaction. You have now rewritten the story simply by changing your state and changing the mental narrative.
Yeah, and chance on anyone that's listening to this program right now are already there, and it's like, okay, how do I clean this up? So the work is to do it prior to the situation happen. Just like like a Navy SEAL doesn't wait to the situation to come in hand to be running exercises. So they prime themselves by doing that. So having some type of I don't like to use the word regiment because that's kind of what got us here, but some type of understanding and a practice that we use every day. And after a while, the practice becomes natural and you actually want to do it. But by taking breaths throughout the day, or even like, whatever pops in your head, like, meditation, going to do some type of hypnotherapy or
Yeah.
whatever, any Reiki, all these
Mhm.
modalities work. But it's kind of like when you're in the thick of it,
Mhm.
those aren't going to work
Mhm.
at that time because you can't get to the Reiki master, you can't get to the hypnotherapist or whatever. You can go to your breath. The breath can help mitigate this. So that's when anyone's panicking, we always like even people that aren't really aware of what's happening in the body, some from a frequential place, they tell them to breathe.
Yep.
Like a police officer, ma'am, just breathe. You're in a
Yep.
car accident, you'll be fine. Or
Mhm.
sir, whatever, it doesn't matter. But all of a sudden they know instinctively to start to breathe. Now, if we start this prior to anything happening, all of a sudden when the thing does happen, we notice. That's what me was like. The first thing I noticed is like, this didn't really bother me, but there still was something there I had to it was like it was like instead of a thorn, it was like a splinter.
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, I don't want to live with any splinters in me. I want to get rid of everything. And that was a moment for me to actually get out of that. It was like, oh, it's cool. So this happening to me still shine. It's kind of like now it's like going into a hotel room with a black light.
Exactly.
Like, oh, damn, this place is messy.
Well, here, look, Sydney just made a comment. So
Okay.
Sydney says, I love seeing how I caused an experience, even if it was unfortunate, or excuse me, unfavorable, because it really reminds me of how powerful we truly are. That is so well said, Sydney.
Yeah. And what it is like the experience happens because there's so many variables. Like,
I know what she's talking about.
yeah, it's kind of like the butterfly effect, right? We know all that stuff. And the butterfly effect shows us that we're all connected in some form. So there's so many variables that create a situation. What we have in charge is how do we respond to the situation.
Mm.
So that's what we're talking about. How do I mitigate that? Because whether it rains or not, we have no control of it unless we get everyone in the field with us to tell it not to rain. But as an individual, a lot of times when you're in these situations, you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
So how do I then mitigate that? Well, start to breathe and do other things that can get you back up to the field where these things aren't problematic. So yes, the situation comes at us, but why is it a problem?
Well, and that's what I like about what Sydney's talking about here, because what she's talking about is awareness. She
Yeah.
says, "I love how I can see how experiences unfold.
Yeah.
Even if it's something I necessarily don't like, based on my state at that time." And that's how I woke up too, Sydney. Was I started to see like, oh my gosh, I'm creating this. This experience that's going on with my family or my friends or my career or whatever. I started to see I'm in this disgruntled state. I think they're talking behind my back. I think they're, out to get me. All these very common narratives that we have, about our family, friends, colleagues at work, careers, bosses. We create these stories about them, and then we act surprised when we experience it. And when you have a level of awareness like Sydney's talking about here, you go, oh shit, I see what's going on. Of course they're reflecting like that to me. I've had that mental, self-talk about how my boss doesn't like me and he always, treats me like crap for the last month and a half. So why the hell am I surprised that my boss is treating me like crap, not respecting me, etc.? So what do? We recognize that with a level of awareness. We smile. We let go of this because we see it for what it is now, and we start to change the narrative. Hey, it's great that my boss is starting to see, my potential. It's great that I'm getting such good results at work.
Mhm.
And we start to totally change how we look at a situation. And then on top of it, go a step further. At least this is what I did. But forgive the individual or the situation, etc., because the situation didn't happen to hurt you or to make you feel bad. It happened to bring this to your awareness so you stop repeating it. It's like Frank was talking about in the beginning. It's like you're hitting the wall, but you're blaming the wall when it's a thorn that's in your side. When you're leaning up against the wall, you're saying, "Oh, it's this wall's fault." And it's like, no, it's this thorn.
Yeah, and then as we go even further into that, we realize, because even in a situation like that, a lot of times we're the ones who actually were paranoid and we created the fight, which wasn't even happening. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we think is in our head is a state or what have you. So being careful of that, what we want to really understand is who cares.
Yeah.
And I really mean this wholeheartedly, because me being nice and high level, like there's a lot of high level people out there, but people still have negative things to say about them. But I start to look at that as they just misunderstand what I'm talking about, nor do I need them to agree with me for me to stay at this high flying state.
Correct.
Because that's too many things to govern. So then it gets to a place like, what belief do I have to have that matches their depiction of me? That's what I'm looking for. So if someone says I'm an idiot, I must believe I'm an idiot at some level, or else it wouldn't have hit me at all.
Correct.
And whether they still think I'm an idiot has no bearing on my life. Now, if they think I'm an idiot and I get upset of it, I could try to prove to them I'm not an idiot. I'm smart. I'm like, all right, good luck with that.
Exactly.
It's never
Good luck
worked for
with-
me before.
And
But-
that's what we're all running around doing.
Yeah.
We're trying to prove our parents wrong or prove our boss wrong or prove
Yeah.
our, spouse wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where the spiritual hierarchy comes in, where
Yeah.
okay, you know what, I have up on you, I'm more spiritual than you. And
Yeah,
it's like,
the superior complex. Now
yeah.
you're trading,
Yeah.
lack, and self-worth from a spiritual standpoint, and that never works.
No, it's just another, it's just another
A
hill.
program, another program.
It's another, yeah, exactly.
And
Another,
you're putting a new thorn in.
yeah, just put it on the right side.
You're
on the
calling it,
left.
a spiritual thorn, and
Yeah.
and you wear it with pride.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so spiritual.
Yeah.
Couple quick comments. Benjamin Wagner, shout out to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Great to see you. Looks like we got one from Marissa too, saying, laugh out loud, I'm the problem. It's me in Taylor Swift voice. That's exactly it.
There you go.
You realize that you're the problem. You're like, oh,
Well,
it's been me this whole time.
Yeah, it's the story that's running in us. And that's the interesting thing is, just witnessing that actually dissolves whatever the situation is. So to mechanically look at this, look at it like we are the light that's shining out into the world. So if you look at it from an old movie projector where you had a light and then you had a canister with the film going through it, moving across it.
Mhm.
And on it, each frame has individual picture.
Mhm.
And then when the light hits it, it then fragments onto what we call a screen.
Mhm.
So who we are is we are the light. All right. And then situations, circumstances are the screen. All right. I'm not the screen. Sorry. Are the film that's going across the light. And then it's projected on the screen. What our emotions are. And me and Mike were talking about this. We came up with this analogy together. We are the music that's presenting. And what I mean is, like, if you watched Rocky, the movie Rocky, and I'm hoping everyone watched it. If not, you better watch it.
It's a good one.
It's a great one. Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. Well, anyway, there's a scene where he's running up the stairs in Philadelphia, and it's a long trek or stairs up there. And if you just watch him without the music, there would be no emotional tie to it.
Mhm.
So it's just a man running upstairs. But dun 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 dun. That's our emotions. So what music or emotions are we playing when we're witnessing the world?
Mhm.
So the world is happening, situations are coming, our light is shining through it, and then, or it could be dun dun dun, dun 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 dun. Like all of a sudden, music turns our emotions into happy, excited, fear. What song am I singing? Am I doing Jaws? dun 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 dun, like something bad's about to happen. I'm like
Mhm.
dun 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 dun. Otherwise, you just see a guy running up the stairs and no emotional attachment to it.
So how do we do that? It's a change in our perspective about something.
Yeah. So when we start to focus on our nervous system,
Mhm,
and the way we can mitigate that through will is through breathing.
mhm.
All right. Again, the other modalities such as um, I do Reiki a lot. I've done hypnosis a lot.
Mhm.
Those things are really good for clearing stuff out. But it's not till a situation happens do you realize that song is in there. All
Exactly.
right. So a lot of like like when I started doing this stuff, I had a lot of junk in me. So I've done everything from um, sound frequency healing with
Yep.
tuning forks. I do sound bathing at least once a month,
Mhm.
it live with somebody. I do hypnotherapies,
Yep.
hey, if you want a good hypnotherapist, use Kayla.
Yep.
you know.
Exactly.
So these are things you do in and around the situation prior to it happening. But when it comes down to you're in it, the thick of it, okay, you stop breathing. What you do is go from a sympathetic state, which is fight or flight, to a parasympathetic state fairly quickly. I could be in a really tired mood, just physically or whatever, and I could stop breathing. And it doesn't take me more than 10 minutes to get to that high frequency state. Now, when I'm there, I'm like, okay, let me go get hypnotherapy by Kayla,
Yeah.
and or then start because I want to keep contributing to the field of removing stuff from my body. That's when I go to do all these other modalities because then I'll have the strength to do it. But when you're sitting down on the couch, majorly depressed, doing anything is not in the
Strenuous.
cards. It's very strenuous.
Yeah. And I think too, like, I love the analogy of the music because it's like as situations are unfolding, we're participating. So something may not be going how you want it, right? The situation is unfolding. The trick is not to freak out, allow what's happening to happen, but come at it from a level of space, openness, and optimism. You know, well, hey, whatever's unfolding is unfolding in for my highest and best path, for my highest and best interest, in my best interest. I always remind myself that, like, as a situation's unfolding, that I may not like or enjoy, I remind myself that things are still working out, even though I can't see them. And by telling myself that, I'm changing the music from dun dun dun
Yeah.
to dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun dun, dun. Like, and it's like, okay, yes, this is shitty, something bad's happened, but it's gonna turn out great.
But it's what's
That switch changes the whole trajectory of that situation.
but what's shitty is the music, not the thing. That's
Mhm.
what the point is. If you saw a shark swimming in the water in a movie, you wouldn't think anything. But it was in Jaws. Actually, even in the movie Jaws, the sound would come out. You knew the shark was coming, and it
Mhm.
put you in this tense situation. And the shark, you didn't even see it.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Same thing if a person was running up the stairs like Sylvester Stallone was in Rocky without music, you'd be like, all right, what are we doing here? Like there's
Yeah.
no attachment to it.
Yeah.
So it's not that the situation is shitty, it's just the frequency that we're in
Mhm.
that's not matching where we want to be. That creates a shittiness.
Yeah.
Because what's exciting to one person is shitty to another person based on the frequential where they're supposed to be.
Exactly.
So we can control that. We can control the frequency in us. And the reason we use music because music is the one frequency that we experience that is universal, right? Like no one cries when they well, maybe they cry with joy when they hear dun 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 dun. But then everyone like when you hear dun 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 dun, they're like,
Mhm.
So we actually have the ability. But then you could get to a point where you rise above that, where both of those you rise above, you can actually override all of that. And then you could be the master of your own world.
We have two
What-
good questions.
Oh yeah.
So get this one right here. Frank, you take this one. This one is from Ivana, and she says, "How to allow ourselves to forgive. I feel very stuck in fear, anger, and judgment in regard to certain people." Ivana, I have felt that exact same thing. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. When it comes to forgiveness is a releasing of energy. So it's really what it is. It's an energy state. So what they did to you is you're repeating it what's being done to you. So why do you feel bad about what they did? That's the first question you have to ask yourself. And that's what it is. You have to do self-evaluation here. why do why what they did to me feels bad. The first thing is you preset that this is how people are supposed to treat me.
Mm-hmm.
The world is supposed to be this way. It has to be sunny out. So these are going to deep-rooted understandings of what we think the world is supposed to do and how it's supposed to acquiesce around us.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Why they did it, it's because they're in fear. All right. So you can forgive them for that. Just like you forgive a 3-year-old for spilling, you know, wine on your carpet.
Yeah.
With
Well,
a
I don't know why your 3-year-old has
Yeah.
wine, but cereal on your carpet.
Yeah. Well, wine is one of those things you can't get out.
No, I know what you
So,
mean.
so you don't really get that much upset based on the expectation. So
Mhm.
our expectations of people are too high.
Mhm.
I don't have so even in certain gospels in the Bible, and they talked about like having no faith in man, but faith in the system in which man derives from.
Mhm.
I just made that quote up by myself, but it's it's kind of it's kind of a parable. I mean, it's kind of talking about what's really being done here. Why do we hold on to that? And the less we hold people to accountability, the more we get to enjoy them.
Mhm.
Like I have great friends, but they don't owe me anything.
No.
They don't owe me anything. But if I said this is how a friend's supposed to treat me, and what I'm doing is I'm keeping score.
Yep.
And in the act of keeping score, the second they step out, like, oh, it's like, oh, all right, another one. Next thing you know, you're yelling at your friend without them even knowing why you're upset at them.
Yep.
All right. So
It comes down to us.
Yeah. And I'm not by any means becoming a doormat. You actually become the opposite because when you rise above what we call traffic, you're out of the traffic. So recognize, why am I holding people to a higher standard?
Mhm.
All right. And I don't know the exact situation that that the question was asked, but a lot of times, actually all the time, it comes from some variable of that. And then why do we believe what they feel? And the other thing is everyone's doing the best they can from where they are.
Yes.
If somebody's in the basement of a building with no windows, I can't expect them to see the outside.
Mhm.
I become aware of that. Now, I want to share that with them. So I do my best to invite them up, but they have to want to come.
Mhm.
So we're not here to save or help people.
Because then you're back in the superior,
Yep.
state where you're
Yeah.
thinking I'm better than you because I'm spiritual. No, you're replacing your old ego with a new ego.
Yeah. And
Identity.
yeah. And we're here to service one another, right?
Mhm.
And whatever, because everyone has different skills. We know that. So
Mhm.
we're just servicing. If everyone gets in this field of service, there is no problems,
I remember too, for me, Ivana, one thing I want to touch on too, like forgiveness, like when I was going through this, I remember like specifically with my parents, it was a type of thing where one day it finally clicked for me. And like I was holding my parents to this weird created mental like standard or expectation, like this is how a perfect parent is supposed to be. And if they treat me anything less than this is their fault.
Yeah.
And they're wrong. And I was wronged. And because I was wronged, I have the right to feel that way. Frank and I, we call this a justified grievance, something that, yeah, you're right. It does feel bad. No one should be in that situation, but you can either call it that and say, yes, I'm justified in feeling poorly, or you can say, I'm aware that this situation exists, but I'm also aware I don't have to allow myself to be consumed by it, because me allowing myself to be consumed by this feeling of, wrongfully, I was wronged, etc. It only keeps me in a state of being wronged. It doesn't help create a new situation or create an opportunity where that doesn't exist. So you're aware that you're aware of the reality, but you want to select you want the trajectory of this reality to continue down a different path. So for me, it was like I recognized, hey, I'm holding this person to an unrealistic expectation of what my mind believes they should act. And how is that fair to that person? It's absolutely not. I wouldn't want them holding me to that same expectation. So I forgive them entirely. This is why, Jesus said, forgive them for they do not know. If people were in tune and were aware of themselves and their actions, no one would ever treat another person poorly or harm them or anything like that. It's we're stuck in our same repetitive patterns of crappy behavior, bad self-talk, negative outlook on life, that we're like a karmic wind-up doll. is how David Hawkins described it, where we have bad behavior because we're so trapped in this identity and character. And our job, our role here when we come to earth is to realize we've created a character and that we don't have to play the same narrative of that character. Oh yeah, Mike would be upset about this. You let go of that. And then this opens up and it creates space for you to detach from it. And it feels better. I can tell you right now, every person that I've gone on to forgive, it has taken me to a next level of specifically myself too, because I had to learn how to forgive
Well,
myself. It takes me to a new level.
it is all self-forgiveness, because
Yep.
where the concept come that our parents have to do this?
No, yeah,
Yeah, from
right.
Happy Days,
Yeah,
some TV
exactly.
show. So once you forgive, you're actually forgiving everyone out there, because everyone is a just a mere concept of who you are. They don't really at some level exist,
Hmm.
but through your concept. So even anyone listen to this and whether you think what we're saying is not resonating or whether it's resonating, it's your perspective onto that. So it's not that Mike and I are saying anything that's over enlightened. You're actually understanding it. You're utilizing Mike and I right now, like I utilize other teachers, to know what I already know.
Yep.
And so when someone asks, how do I forgive? It means you are on a precipice of actually forgiving, because you already know the answer to this.
Hmm.
So yeah.
You're using us as a mirror.
Yeah, using us a mirror to kind of to see, to see what am I holding on to
Hmm.
that's disallowing because what is forgiveness? Forgiveness is being in the basement and wanting to see light, and there's no light, and it's going up to the first floor.
Hmm.
You literally left the basement. That's forgiveness. Forgiveness is an energy that puts one in turmoil, that's not in an adequate place to read a book because there's no light. No, I want to go towards the light. Once you move towards the light, your heart opens up in the physiology of the world. So once I start getting the energy out of my lower centers, protecting myself,
Yeah.
my heart opens up. Light comes through me. All of a sudden, forgiveness is all you have. And then you could tell you the story. It's like, yeah, they don't know anything or whatever, and they don't. And through forgiveness, you can actually help lift them up to the floor where they can see that. And all of a sudden, forgiveness is all around.
Yep.
But I don't need someone to go up to that place. I'm just going to keep climbing up the building, so to speak. And whoever wants to come, I always encourage everyone to come. But if you're in the basement, maybe we need to be there longer as a lesson. Maybe we came here. So it's not that it's wrong. It's just that playing a role. Was Lex Luthor wrong in Superman?
No, that was his role.
It was his role.
Hmm.
But what we're learning through watching these in what we call duality, we mitigate it by going to non-duality in the understanding. So we actually go there first. Now we're putting the horse in front of the cart. Then it's so much easier to see this is a play. But if you're so stuck in the role, like Tom Hanks realizes he was just playing Forrest Gump. He is not Forrest Gump.
Hmm.
So he had to get close enough to where we were fooled that he was Forrest Gump, but still kept the space to where he's like, no, I'm Tom Hanks.
Hmm.
Tom Hanks in this analogy would be the I am in every human being. The concept of who I'm playing, such as Frank. Right now, I'm Frank on this podcast, coming out with certain analogies, and that's what my persona does. But that's not who I am.
Hmm.
Who I am is the light that's projecting it out. And if I want to grow spiritually from the character standpoint, I have to let go of everything I think I know, because I don't know.
Hmm.
But what I do know is I know when I feel good. When I feel good, all of a sudden concepts and ideas come into me. But they, like a concept and idea may work today, but it might not work tomorrow. Just like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich works for lunchtime, but not for dinner, so to speak. You got to let that go. And this is how we live a free life.
The best way for me to learn to let go of it was realizing that I was the only one actually holding on to it. I was the one saying, if the world isn't this way, or if somebody doesn't treat me this way, then it's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, oh my God, I'm the one setting these standards. But why? Who says this? What this is what movies say friends should act like. This is what the television says people should act like. I created this idea of what a parent, what a friend, what a boss, what a partner should look like. And if they don't live up to this, then it's their fault. And I saw like the flaws in that, and it allowed me to let go. And now I don't hold anybody to a standard of how they have to act. And in turn, this allowed me to essentially, I was no longer passing judgment upon people, and so people stopped passing judgment on me, because now I'm not holding them to this like created situation where I'm like, hey, look, this is how you're supposed to act. Says who? Says who? No one. It just you thinks that you're right. They shouldn't treat me like this, etc. When in reality, you can let go of it and say, hey, if that's how they treat me, that says where they're at this time in their story. But it does not going to affect me, and I'm not going to judge them because I would not want to be judged. And when we stop judging others, this is when everything really changes. And I love that we're talking about this, because we live in a world that has normalized bad behavior and judgment, and we call it normal. We live in a society where all of our politicians, our people on the news, we think it's okay to pass judgment on others, and we feel justified in doing so. And it's the complete opposite. We should not be judging any person. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what's in their space and what they're experiencing. And so when you stop judging others, people stop judging you, and then this whole reality starts working more together.
Yeah, and if you approach this more like a play or a game, I always like to lighten things up. So when I look at the media, and Mike brought up the media and politics, I look at them. They're trying to distract me from me walking across the tightrope, and I'm not going to let them. But I want them to try.
Mhm.
So I don't like people trying to. How do I get rid of the news and do this? I'm like, why are you getting bothered by it? Again, it's just part of it. So the more something out there is trying to distract me, the deeper my focus goes, and that's the most brilliant thing for me. So in real reality, I remember I don't know how many years ago, but there's some gentleman that actually tightrope across the Grand Canyon. I don't know what the span distance was. It was pretty good, but when in part of his walking across the tightrope, he was dealing with 90-mile-an-hour winds, so he had to lean into it. Okay, now let's take him back to where he was walking on a balance beam. His understanding of focus was far less rewarding on a balance beam than it was on a tightrope. So I bring all that stuff on. Why? Because it's far more rewarding when I'm focused, when everything's coming at me, but I could still hit the bullseye, even though the bullseye keeps moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game we came here to play. We didn't want just I could close my eyes and throw in any direction. Like, in other words, if your whole room was painted with all bullseyes, no matter what direction you got in, you hit one, because there's no other thing than a bullseye. It's just one big red room. What good would that be?
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't. So those things, I look at his game. I'm like, let's see if you can get me. Kind of like a hidden camera show to me. And that's how I approach it. I'm like, all right, bring it on. You're not going to upset me today.
I love what you just said, Frank, because it really explains what we're all going through on a day-to-day basis. So, like, there's so much going on in the news, right? There's always something,
There's always
right?
something.
The craziest stuff. That is all just distraction, taking us away from our personal goals, where we're heading. And this is why people get caught up in this and nothing ever changes, is because we don't affect these types of things. We hear about it, we may make a comment on our social media about it, or change something in our biography about it, but we're not actually doing anything related to that. So it's just pulling us away from our actual goals and where we're headed. And so this is why we have to tune out news, social media, noise, because it's just pulling us in different directions away from us. And we live in this world that taught us, like, oh my God, like, if you're not worried about this, you're not informed, or you don't care about people, or any of that. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That's more noise trying to pull us away from ourselves. This is why people, when they get off social media, or they change for a full month, they're like, oh my God, they come back all refreshed. Like, oh my God, I feel like I'm in a different world.
Yeah,
it's because you're no longer had your story affected.
And that's kind of the Kayla asked the question.
Yeah.
Do you advise removing yourself from negative?
Oh no, this is Kira.
Oh, Kira.
Yeah, Kira. Do you advise?
My glasses on.
Yeah, you're good. Kira said, do you advise to remove yourself from negative situations and people that are unaligned with your life until they are aligned again? Great question.
Absolutely. Because like if you're an alcoholic, stepping away from a bar,
Mhm.
but then the journey is going back to the point where you can finally get to a place where you're no longer the alcoholic, just like Tom Hanks is no longer Forrest Gump. So yeah, absolutely. Remove yourself in the immediate situation, because trying to like again, trying to battle it, trying to learn how to fight in the ring is not the time to learn how to fight. So step out of the ring, then learn how to spar, if you will. Then hit the bag. I'm using boxing metaphors here. Then you go back in. But then when you go in, it's a champion fight. So all of a sudden, and I was getting ready to say that before the question came up. What's interesting is when you start doing this work, and I call it's worthy work, you get to a point where aren't any people around you that deem to be negative. The people that are really negative, they disappear from your life.
Mhm.
The other people either come up or whatever. You just keep rising up the ladder and everything that's there. But what we tend to do is we feel the sense of obligation. That's my best friend.
Mhm.
I must stay with them. I'm like, no, because you're not doing them or you a favor. The best thing to do is to get your energy as high as you can. If you have to go lock yourself away in some type of meditation, go do it. All right. Then when you come out, then you're testing how good am I? So when I'm training for boxing, how do I know how good I am? By getting back in the ring. And I get back in the ring, okay, I'm a lot better than the first time, but I still got things to work on.
Mhm.
So you keep going back and forth in that field. Then one day you just going up this ladder to where nothing is going to bother you. Well, I shouldn't say nothing to bother you. If something does bother you, it's just another form or another acclimation of a different height that you're going in. But we absolutely do recommend getting away from people. And we get really good at this game. Those people just disappear. You don't have to get rid of them.
And that's what I wanted to say. You just wrapped up with it, which is ultimately these people will start to naturally fall away as you're raising your vibration. Like I can't tell you how many friends and just old acquaintances that I don't even hear about, see, are in my life anymore, just because we're vibrating in two totally different realities. I'm not at a stage in my life where I want to get off of work, go to the bar, talk about how shitty my coworkers are and how much my wife sucks, while I drink 3 beers every single day. Like that's not my vibration. And so naturally, any friend or acquaintance or, person, you just go your own separate ways because you're not into that anymore. But what I suggest is you don't try to remove yourself by telling the person that, because then you're taking a superior stance. You just begin replacing those things with positive experiences. So maybe you're going to a breathwork class now on Wednesdays instead of going to the bar, and you're going to the gym, after work during the week. So you begin to replace these situations with things that are benefiting with helping you become a stronger person, not necessarily saying, oh, I'm not hanging out with you because I'm not that way. Well, now you're just judging the person and you're sinking to their level. Well, hey, sorry, I'm unavailable today. I'm doing this. And it's a positive thing, that you're doing. And people start to realize, like, what the hell are they doing? Why would they be doing that? That's not what we normally go to the bar that day. Why are they going to the gym? Why are they going to this breathwork class? What the hell is this breathwork class? You just start to better yourself on your own and legitimately, like you want to. Like you don't do something because you think, oh, this person's going to find out about it. No, you do it because this is going to help you. And so you just start choosing things. I call it one right step at a time. You take that next right step at a time, and all of a sudden these people, these situations, they naturally fall away because they're no longer on the same vibration as you.
Yeah, because if they're still in your life, it means you're still in the same room as them.
Yep.
So you hadn't left the room. So, you know,
Kira said, thank you. I've noticed that these situations have dissipated as I've taken attention away from them and onto myself.
perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
Exactly what we were just talking
Yeah,
about.
it's physics. Whatever you give your attention to grows
Exactly.
and
You
expands.
you don't have to tell the person or make a scene or try to make yourself feel better. You naturally just start to do stuff that is positive,
Yep.
and the situations just fall away. And it's awesome. I remember that very much so on my journey.
Yeah. So when you're walking through your journey, whoever's next to you, how long they stay, that's great for the moment in which they're in. And then when the fork in the road comes, they go another way, you go another way. That's just how life is.
And that could be a best friend, a family member. Like, guys,
Yeah.
as you're on this path, you're going to change, and situations are going to change. This is not a bad thing. This is the people talk about the ego death. And ego death is just this old identity falling away. No, I'm not the guy who goes to the bar every day and complains anymore.
Yeah.
So naturally, I'm not going to hang around the people that are doing that.
And we were systemically, and this is part of our subconscious too. This is still referring back to what Kira talked about. The word obligation, we were taught this from a very young age. It doesn't matter where you lived in the world. So you feel obligated to hang out with these people, stay with them. And in some situations, it could be someone you're really close with that might not be able to get out of the situation right away. So obligation needs to go wayside. You have to ask yourself, why don't I want to be here? And then go along with that. So I don't believe in obligation at all. If someone wants me to go somewhere and I want to be there, I'll be there. If not, I don't hold. And actually, in the field of holding obligation, you tend not to want to go. You just go for the sake of it, and you doesn't do any. You don't do. You actually ruin the party by showing up to a party that you feel obligated to. Now you're waiting at the door. You humdrum like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I didn't really want to be here.
So I'm going to butcher your name, and I apologize, but it's Kakavi, I believe, Sasavi. So
Yeah.
Kakavi, I apologize if I'm saying that totally wrong. So there's
I need
two
to wear my
comments.
glasses next time I get
Yeah,
it.
I can probably find a way to make this font larger. So it says, we can't change someone else's perspective, even though it's not easy to accept it. So that's one. But then you said, what do you think? Where is the balance between love towards yourself and empathy, love for someone else? Because sometimes when we choose ourselves, someone would perceive that as selfish behavior. I love this question.
Yeah, but love is a field, it's a state. So if somebody is not in the same field of love or state as you, yeah, they're gonna feel bad. Just kind of like if you see somebody that's doing better than you, you're gonna feel envious and jealous if that's the state you're in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it is. It's kind of like you're just flowing to the state. Once your heart opens up, love is all you have, even for the person that doesn't understand it. Again, I'm going to use this analogy. It's not a correct or a right one, but if you come to an understanding where you know the earth is round, having a discussion with someone that the earth is flat is there's no need for that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to believe if it's flat, and you're going to believe it's round. The thing is, I'm saying is, why do you care if they believe it's flat?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Doesn't matter. And when you actually get and let go of that, your heart opens up and more love comes in. So people talk about love in this very arbitrary way. It's energy. So the more my heart opens up, because I have less beliefs, less stress, or less resistance, my heart naturally opens up. When it opens up, everything I look at is love.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is, okay, if it's sunny out, my heart opens up. It's love. If my wife is nice to me, heart opens up. But if she does something I don't like, my aperture closes. So it's not even the situation. It's the amount of energy that's coming through me, right? If I turn the sound way down, you could see my lips move. You can't hear what I'm saying. So look at your energy field, and your heart literally opens like an aperture, like a camera. I want that. If I'm noticing, why isn't it open? I got a thorn. Get rid of the thorn. Boom, it opens up. Everything else falls into place. We don't need to intellectually understand this because you can't. It goes back to, how do I feel? Do I feel dun 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 dun, or I feel dun dun dun? If I feel dun dun dun, I want to feel dun 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 dun. I just got to change the structure of that song by opening up my heart, breathing, different types of meditation. Then when I approach the world outside of me, this person that's disagreeing with me, I still love them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But I don't argue with them, because I get it, because I used to be there. So I'm not going to even judge them. Before the grace of God go, I is where I used to be.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess, like when you said, because sometimes when we choose ourselves over someone would perceive that as selfish behavior. So number one, I want to point out that is us assuming and judging that another person is going to feel a way because of how I act. And we cannot change our behavior based on how we feel others are going to perceive something. What we need to focus on is make sure we're doing what's the right thing, what's the honorable thing. If the situation calls for you to reach out to that person, you'll know this on a deeper level, then that would be the path of least resistance, and you reach out to that person and address the situation. But we can't tussle between, how is somebody going to perceive this. We need to pass no judgment on others, and no judgment will be passed on us.
Yeah.
That's how this reflection works. So I like to point that out is I don't walk around going, oh, I really hope, Kayla's not going to perceive this as me being, this way. No. I don't do that at all, because my actions, my intent, where I'm coming from, would not allow that to appear that way.
Well, the field of energy you're in would not allow that
Yeah,
action
the
to
field
happen.
of energy.
Yeah. So
Correct.
So it's kind of like when you get into a certain field of energy, it is selfish, but at the
It
same
takes
time,
care
we're
of
not talking about I'm going to get something before they get it. That's the rudimentary understanding of humanity's selfishness. I get that. We're talking about spirit selfishness. The more love I have, the more love I give. The more prosperous I come, the more I could give. That's selfish and selfless at the same time. It's not this or that. It's this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're no good to anybody if you're upset, or no good to anyone if you're poor, no good to anyone if you're sick. So becoming rich, wealthy, or whatever it is you want to call it, becoming happy, becoming healthy, is that selfish? It'd be selfish not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be dishonoring everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
Where the person might be that's looking at you, if they did come out and say you're selfish, they just have a misunderstanding.
And they're judging you.
Because they're being selfish because they want you to be in the gutter with them. And that's more selfish on the humanistic, what we call humanistic standpoint of what we call survival. The type of selfish I'm talking about isn't thriving. It's not survival. In survival, yes, I'm going to do this before you get there because I'm going to get it. Where in thriving, being selfish is brilliant because it helps everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. And we've done these studies on this. Joe Dispenza will do this. He'll have these walking meditations. He'll set them up several times a year on a Saturday, usually, my timeline. So it's 7:00 in the morning. I noticed because I don't know where he's coming from actually, but he'll have them. And what he does is prior to the meditation, and I think they're about 50 something minutes long, close to an hour, he'll measure the output. He has scientists working with him. They measure the output of the frequency of the planet prior, and then they do it after. It always raises. So by me walking around in a walking meditation in that period of time with, another 300,000 people, we're changing the planet's output. So why would you not want to be selfish? You're helping more people than you actually even could count on. You'll never even meet them. So it'd be selfish to the opposite.
And again, as we are on the spiritual path, we start to learn that we have a lot of like programming and things that we carry. So what we're describing as selfish, maybe selfish isn't the right word. Maybe it's, learning to take our power back, learning abundance, maybe it's us categorizing it as selfish is where you're hung up on, because that behavior isn't, selfish behavior. That's behavior that creates abundance. It's abundance you can share with another and many others.
Yeah, because that selfish comes from survival, and the selfish that me and Mike are talking about come from thriving.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which benefits all. So learning to discern that, if you want to change the verbiage of the word, that's different. So like every we know this. Like if I tell my wife, "Hey, I love you," in a setting, like it's like, what do you mean by that? Like how to tone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the word itself; it's the way we say it, the way we do it. It really means anything, because if someone spoke a different language, they wouldn't even understand what the word selfish meant, but they would understand the tone in which I'm in. They can tell if I'm happy or not.
Yep.
At least sometimes I think someone yell at me and they're actually praising me, but we gather the energy from, and that's what it is. We're here to focus on the frequency. Like we started out this conversation about the frequency. How do we control our frequency? Because we all have a natural frequency. And we all know this because every human being has fingerprints. And if you ever looked at scientists do this, anyone, you could do it yourself. You take a plate of metal, a metal plate flat, you put sand on it. And then you take 2 prongs, put it on there, and you play any sound frequency you want and watch the patterns of the sand change. All right. That's our fingerprint. So what we're trying to do is trying to lift up all the garbage that we were told throughout the years to get back to our natural frequency. Now, when you look at a human's fingerprints, all human fingerprints glance over all look the same. So there is some unified feel there. But then when you're deeply look into it, there is not two alike on the planet. We all have our signature frequency. But what we keep doing is, if I'm a drummer and I put a blanket over the drums, you're not going to hear the drums. We got to remove the blanket. We got to remove the sheet. We got to move the glasses from our eyes. So in this, what I'm teaching people is not to get more stuff. It's to let go of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when a situation comes up and it hurts me, it means there's something I need to let go. I need to go and investigate what it is. Why does this person getting upset? Why does it bother me? Rather than saying they shouldn't get upset. No, they have the right to get upset. It's not helping them. But why does it bother me that they get upset? That's the inquiry I'm doing. And when I let go of that, guess what happens? Chances are they won't get upset at you, because a lot of times my energy responded, and then I reacted. Now I'm in what we call a fight. But if you enter into a fight where someone takes a couple swings at you and you duck and move away, eventually they'll stop swinging because they realize you're not throwing back. And then what you do is you just simply walk away. They stop swinging. Now they may go off, look for another fight, or they may say, hey, what is it that you're doing that allows you to not get upset at me?
Mm-hmm.
Why I'm swinging at you? And that's the moment where the teaching comes in, but they asked for it. You didn't insert it into them, because we should never insert anything. Like me and Mike, we invite, everyone's here. We didn't insert anything. We're just giving up information the way we see it, the way Mike and I experience it through our lifetime. But I never go around telling people what they need to do. I don't give advice. I suggest things if they ask, and I point them. But I tell them, when you remove all the garbage and all the baggage, you go into the higher frame. So you're in the heart, then you move up to the higher chakras. All of a sudden, you'll find your Stairway to Heaven song, so to speak, like Led Zeppelin did.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there. It's there for the taking. But we're getting so stuck down here, we're not creating up here.
Mm-hmm.
The higher we get, the less outward information we get. Now, when I run into a sequence of information, it becomes synchronistic. It's kind of funny, cute, or it lets me go in a direction, but it's just another way of affirming. There's another, like, the universe gives you ways to affirm if you're moving in the right direction, and it gives you ways to affirm if you're not. It's called pattern recognition. How do I feel? Is it harmonic inside, or is it interfering? If it's harmonic, keep going. If it's interference, mitigate it. Do breath work, whatever modality you need to do at the time. All right. Once I start doing that, I get so used to feeling good, nothing will take me down. That's how good we become, like a samurai.
Mm-hmm. That's the best
wielding the sword. It's like, wow, this is brilliant.
So we've got enough time here. We're going to wrap this one just because we're trying to keep it at an hour. But we've got 2 questions that we want to. Let's take these as our last questions because these are great. Ivana wrote something, and then Sarah, I believe it was Sarah.
Yeah,
Or
definitely.
Sarah
My
Marai
glasses next.
wrote it. So yeah, sorry guys, we'll make the font bigger next time. Clearly, this is too small for us. But it says, so one person, they're talking about like what Bashar's talks about here. I like how they said this. I like what Kayla says about manifesting a different version of someone. That to me is their most fascinating level of understanding how our consciousness is creating all of these people and scenarios. Well, all scenarios, all timelines are existing right now.
Mhm.
We know this, science has proven this. So we're selecting a reality, based on our frequency match, our vibration, what we've been talking about here. If we want us to experience a certain situation, we must be on that same frequency and vibration.
Yeah.
And then they
that's,
follow up.
Yeah, that's called the law of transmutation. So if you have a loved one and they're hurting, you don't just step away from them. Once you get to the place where you get to the place where you're feeling good, now I could transmute energy into them. That's kind of like the meditations that Joe Dispenza does. That's where true love comes in. So I can literally help change somebody's frequency that's close to me. It's called transmutation. I don't just say, I'm done with you. Like, no, you actually help. That's how you change the person's frequency to where you actually, when you're having a good time, people want to have a good time with you. So they're going to come up to the floor where you're having a good time.
Exactly.
That's natural. That's
You
what
level
happens.
up and you're bringing people with you.
Yep.
you
Who are ready
they're
and willing to
interacting with.
go.
And so Sarah wrote, what are your thoughts on timeline jumping and how to shift into different realities? And I like this. Oh, I think of Maria with just a twist. Thank you, Sarah Maria. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So totally messing people's names up. But that's the same thing. What are your thoughts on timeline jumping and how to shift into different reality?
Well, we don't like shifting is something automatically happens. If you any guys are familiar with Bashar, he'll say is you're shifting billion times per second.
Anytime our heart beats,
it's a shift.
It's a new shift.
You're shifting. So now we're getting into deeper understandings of physics here. So you're shifting billions of times per second. What direction am I shifting in? What kind, like when I go onto Spotify, what music do I want to listen to? Every song that known to man is playing right now on Spotify, but I have to choose the one frequency where the song that I want to hear is permittable, and it shuts everything else out. So right now, you guys are choosing to watch Perspective Shift live rather than doing anything else. Once you leave here, you're going to shift into maybe a different theme. Maybe we'll have to work or do something. We're already doing it. But the better we feel, the better transitional feeling we have. It's when we don't feel good. It's like, okay, I could be like, because this used to happen to me too. Like I'm in a really good conversation with someone and the conversation's end. It's like, oh, now I got to go home. Like, what's wrong with home? Why can't you maintain that energy? Because I'm still shifting billions of times per second. So what am I really wanting to focus on? Every time I go into a different timeline, which we're constantly doing, I want to maintain a certain level of frequency, and it never ends, by the way. Like there's levels of frequency I have not experienced. I know they're out there.
I like, what are your thoughts on timeline jumping? So anytime I walk into a new room, this morning, when I walked into Frank's, into his house, I jumped into the timeline of, I instantly felt, at peace. My experience, my friendship with Frank, it's a certain feeling. It's an excitement. It's, oh my God, today's our first live. I jumped onto a new timeline where this is our first live for Perspective Shift.
Yeah.
And so it's when you're quote unquote jumping a timeline, it's more like your level of awareness. You can walk out, or like before you walk into a room, let's say you're going to give a work presentation or you're going into work to see your colleagues, you can walk into that room. Before walking into that room, you can say, everyone in there respects me, is impressed by me, and interacts with me on a personal level. And by simply acknowledging that and allowing yourself to feel that, the moment you walk through that door, you've set yourself on a different timeline. So this jumping of timelines is something we do every day. We just don't really, we don't call it that, we just call it normal by walking around. But we're jumping timelines anytime we meet with a new friend or meet with a new partner or go into a different situation. We're jumping timelines when we go to work and when we come home and when we see our significant others, all of that.
Yeah.
So don't give too much attention to jumping the timeline, but necessarily how you feel,
as you enter into that timeline.
Yeah, exactly. How to shift into a different reality is going to come from you learning how to shift the energy within yourself by saying, hey, I'm aware that energy and my state affects my experience. So I'm going to step into this experience in a calm, neutral state, because a neutral state is what's going to bring these types of opportunities and experiences. If you're trying to set something up, you're saying to the universe, like, I don't have faith this is going to work out, so it has to play out this way or that way, and you're getting too in the weeds, and it makes it difficult. So just step into the state of knowing this is, you're on your highest and best path. This is going to bring the most opportunity to you. This is working in your favor, and be neutral in that setting and watch what happens. You'll be blown away by the experiences and people you meet.
Also, too, because there's a clarification too of people mean timeline. Like, is it possible to go back to the 1920s? I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but what do you think will happen in a different timeline than this timeline now? Because there's another understanding that we came here. Not that we can't change this, because you can, but just like an actor signs up for a movie, it's to play the role that they're given. So the timeline and everything is set in a sequence, but the actor hasn't acted yet to perform it or to experience it. So we came here to experience this timeline. So I was born in 1967. That was my timeline in the physical world. All right. Going to another timeline is, I'm still listening to this timeline. Why? What do you think would happen if I went to a different period of time? If I went with myself, nothing. It just, things will look different. Yeah, it might distract myself momentarily, but it doesn't matter what timeline you're in. It matters how you feel when you're in that timeline. So I hope that clarifies. We weren't really sure what you meant going to timelines, but that's really is. Timelines are continuously changing in the physical world that we're in right now, a three-dimensional world with one of time. This is the experience we're having. People are like, I want to get to the fifth dimension. I'm like, you don't even know what the fifth dimension is. We're aware of it to a degree in a conceptual way, but we came here to experience this in that time. Obviously, there'll be other times we slip out of it, right? So it's, be careful of what you're trying to convey here or thinking about. What do you think? A timeline, a better situation would be better? No, it's still going to award all these information.
And what energy are you at when you're thinking there's something better out
That's
there
it.
that I'm not okay right now?
Yeah.
That's the energy we're trying to get away from, where there's a better timeline out there. I'm trying to experiencing it.
No, there's not.
No, everything is right now. So if there that better timeline, experience it now.
Yeah.
Be it now.
Yep.
And then the timeline changes. Okay, just to finally wrap this up, it says we are choosing the same time. Yes, or maybe we're just choosing the same timeline over and over again so we don't see it. You're absolutely right. That's what we're doing every day. We wake up, we've got 60, 70, 80,000 thoughts a day. Half of the, more than that, 90% of those thoughts are the same bullshit, which is, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. Nobody likes me. Ugh, if I was just born into a different family, everything would be different than me. And we're wondering why every day it's exactly that. We are over and over keeping ourselves on this timeline of, this is not good enough. There is something wrong. So if all day long you're saying this is not good enough, something is wrong, all you're going to experience is that over and over. So we've been hoodwinked our whole lives into thinking that we need to go out here outside of us to fix all of this. And this is why life has been so hard and strenuous and, doesn't work out, is we're not doing the basics. We're not starting from a place of, hey, if I want to be at peace, I have to feel peace. I need to experience peace now. So I'm going to be at peace. This was like such a click for me when I realized this. I was like, oh my God, if I want to experience something, I just need to be it. So I'm going to be peace and watch what happens.
Yeah, because what I gather from that question is, every day we get up and we do the same thing over and over. And it's kind of like, if you listen to the same song at a certain level, if you listen to the same song over and over, it would start to have a difference of output, right? So we call that the law of diminishing returns.
Oh, yeah.
So every day, if you look at your life as like trying to get somewhere, you're going to feel the law of diminished returns. But if you look at your life every day, it's brilliant. So there's different ways of looking at this. So if you do have that law of diminished returns, play another song that day.
Mm-hmm.
It will change your output. So there is still contributing effects in the what we call the outside world, but we're experiencing it within. So we're not saying deny it and say it's whatever. But if I listen to Stairway to Heaven by the 10th time, does it have the same effect on me? No, it can if I'm at a higher level, but then I wouldn't need to listen to it 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
You see the variable there? So most people's lives is they keep doing the same thing over and over. And the insanity is to do what?
Yeah.
Expect
Insanity.
something different.
Correct.
So by shifting up and doing different things, it seems like the human experience is to try new things, go into the unknown to generate excitement. But knowing that I enter into the unknown in a higher state will give me a higher output of what's happening. If I go into the unknown scared, I'm going to experience fear.
Yeah.
That's it. Dun, 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 rather than dun, 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 dun. So when I wake up in the morning, what song is running through my head, so to speak?
Exactly.
Then I step into the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, I still eat same time, go to the gym. But when I go to the gym, I'm doing something different. I variable. If I'm getting bored at the gym, I'll switch it up. I'll do something else. I have the capacity to realize it's not that this isn't working. It's just I've been doing it too long and expecting more. So we don't want to condemn that either. It's because we've been doing that the same all over, the cycle over and over, Groundhog's Day over and over, and realizing, why aren't I getting a different result? Because the way the human experience is, we need newness and brightness, bringing something in. At a higher level, you really don't, but depends on where you are. It's not wrong. Just try to do something different. Create, then when you get to other levels, you realize there is nothing mundane about life. Every little thing to me is exciting.
I think from this live, we started talking about frequency vibration. The questions we've, been going on
really.
about and talking about were great. So thank you guys there. I think leaving this, challenge yourself. An easy thing that I always remind myself on a regular basis is I say to myself, okay, if I want to be happy, I start with here. I'd be happy. What would I be doing right now if I was happy? I wouldn't be worried. I wouldn't be stressed. I wouldn't be judging another person. I allow myself to rest in that feeling and then watch what happens.
Yeah.
So allow what you want to experience, be that. Don't stray from it. Don't say, oh, I can't be this way because I haven't earned it yet. Be that and watch what happens.
Yeah. And let it pull you. Because if you're really in a high flying place, sitting on a couch watching Netflix might be part and parcel of what you're doing. It might not. But what happens is, because I used to do this a lot, I'll get into a high place and I feel good. Then I say, I must do that. No, that's not how it works. I want to be led into the field by my energy. Because sometimes I feel really good. Just sitting around doing nothing is the greatest thing I can do. And then I'm led to do other things. And what happens is I notice this is how I maintain this high frequency. And actually things around me work out brilliantly. But when I go to have to do this something, and when I say I have to do it, so there's certain words that I suggest we get out of our vocabulary. Need, but, try, want, have to, would, should, those type of words.
Ought to.
Yeah. How you label them. So there's words and vocabulary as we start to loosen up from them. Notice how you feel. Just like a little child, you felt good and you ran to, the playground, or you went outside and sat on the curb. It didn't matter what you were doing. You felt great. So when the parents like, how was your day? It was great. We knew that. What did you do? And the kid had okay, what did I do?
Make up a reason.
Yeah. But as we got older, we okay, in order to feel good, I must do this. I must do that. Also, hey, you know how much shit I did today?
That's what we're.
But I'm when I'm doing really, we have these days where I have no expectation of anything happening out there. All of a sudden, the end of the day, my wife's like, "What did you do today?" I'm like, well, I did this. It's like, "Oh, you got a lot done today." I'm like, "Well, I did a bunch of stuff, but I'm like, if I just said I sat on the couch, would be upset at me." She goes, "No, not at all," because she just wants me to be happy. So it's not about that. It's where the energy drives us. And when we have focus, it's going to move you in a direction in which you came here to direct. Just like when Tom Hanks stepped onto the set of Forrest Gump, it probably took him a little while to get into the full role of Forrest Gump. And that's, when he stepped onto set, that's who he was. It's a state. Once we focus on how to get into whatever state, opening up the heart mind, then we're like, how much can I actually open up the heart? And once it's open, why is it closing? Not how do I open it? Why am I shutting it down is a question now. Where before, how do I open it? Now I'm like, I know how to open it. Well, why am I shutting it down? I have too many beliefs out there that they're not wrong. Just like an airplane isn't wrong as a form of transportation, but damn it, I can't get groceries in an airplane. I need my car for that. So it's the belief isn't siding with what you want. It's not that it's wrong. It's just not needed. Some beliefs will never enter into your field of life. So keep that in mind. Keep that spinning in the back of your head.
This was great, guys. Thank you all, sir, for tuning in. We will be live every first Monday of each month. So we will see you guys again coming in April. So we're excited. If you like what you hear, tune into our channel on YouTube, Perspective Shift Now is our YouTube channel. Go there. You can watch our lives on our YouTube channel. They'll be replayed there. We'll get these uploaded and put onto Spotify for our listeners there. And if you guys have any questions and you need to reach us, you can reach us at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
Yeah, and thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate this. All right?
Appreciate it, guys.
Much love out there.
See you guys
All
soon.
right.